Chelsea, did you know that there is a frozen French fry cartel?
I did not.
Well, employee-owned regional grocery chain Redner's Market is suing the nation's largest potato companies, alleging that the four dominant processors of frozen potato products colluded to fix
Mm.
prices and gouge consumers, essentially creating a frozen French fry cartel.
If you're new here, we are the Good Food CFO. And here on YouTube, we share news items from throughout the food industry. You also might be familiar with our podcast, the Good Food CFO podcast, which you can check out full episodes right here on the channel as well. And if you haven't yet, don't forget to subscribe below and click on notifications so that you get updates every time we upload a new video here. So, Sarah, first and foremost, I do want to get some clarification here on who is this retailer, Redner's? Where did they come from? And what brought about this lawsuit?
Yeah. So Redner's is a regional grocery store. So they're headquartered in Reading, Pennsylvania, not far from my hometown of Scranton. They
Oh, yeah.
operate 44 grocery stores and 24 quick stop convenience stores throughout Eastern PA, Maryland, and Delaware. The other cool thing about Redner's is that they're an employee owned grocer. And if you were to walk into one, it seems very old school. It's not super fancy, at least not the last time I was in one of them, but they have a dedication to offering natural and organic products, and they have a really strong commitment to low prices for their customers, which has a direct impact on why they are bringing this lawsuit against the so-called frozen French fry cartel.
Yeah, and this cartel, how many like French fry or potato companies are involved here?
So there's four companies that collectively control 97% of the more than $68 billion US frozen potato product markets. This is just the frozen potato products market.
Yeah, that kind of sounds like a cartel.
Yeah. And what's interesting is I bet that people listening will not recognize the all four of the names. So here they are.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's Lamb Weston, never heard of them. McCain Foods, I have heard of. J.R. Simplot Company and Cavendish Farms.
Walking down the frozen French fry aisle, I've never seen any of those names.
So Redner's is claiming that they colluded to fix prices on their products, which is in direct violation of antitrust law. And they go into detail here. So here's some details on what the lawsuit is claiming. And this is a quote. It says, in 2021 and again in the spring of 2022, while facing increased input cost, defendants changed their pricing methods to collectively impose strong arm price hikes with no worry their customers could defect to competitors. Frozen potato prices climbed 47% from July 2022 to July 2024. In contrast to their own sales prices, defendants' input costs peaked in 2022 and fell steadily after that. Amid that
And so
cost
we're
input,
talking about this.
exactly. And amid that cost input decline, two stock analysts predicted that defendant Lamb Weston's, quote, stepped up margin expansion would not be durable longer term. However, contrary to that prediction, the defendant's prices continued to climb and remained uncompetitively high, end quote.
And so, okay, this is one company, this Lamb Weston, right, is raising their prices. But what we're talking about here in this story is that that was happening across all four of these companies.
Yeah. Well, the lawsuit adds that the former VP of International at Lamb Weston said in 2023 that Lamb Weston, J.R. Simplot, and McCain, quote, had never seen margins this high in the history of the potato industry, end quote, and that the success was driven by the companies having, another quote, no incentive to fight that hard for each other's share, because the competitors were behaving themselves to keep margins high. And they actually worked to consolidate and conceal their conspiracy.
Okay, but you just said that that quote came from a VP or someone at Lamb Weston.
Mm-hmm.
And so, why do they even have knowledge of what the margins were at these other companies?
I don't necessarily know how they have information on the margins at the other companies, but what we know from additional information in the lawsuit is that the companies received, the press releases from these other companies. Perhaps there were margin, statements in those press releases. There were price increases perhaps within those press releases. And also, according to the lawsuit, and this is another quote, although Lamb Weston managers obtained their competitors' price announcements, they were forbidden to email such announcements to C-suite executives so the latter could more plausibly deny receiving information about the announcements. So there's industry awareness, it sounds like, of increased prices. And I
Mm-hmm.
think when there's only four of you and you're controlling 97% of the industry, you likely have a good sense of what the cost of potatoes are, what the typical production costs are, right? And when you're buying the amount of potatoes that these companies are, there's commodity pricing, I would presume, right? Just like there is for milk and other berries, other types of commodity goods as well. And this reminds me of a conversation we had previously here on YouTube in our news segments around, Kroger and Albertsons and egg pricing. Right now,
Yeah.
there were email records of the communications, right? Kroger and Albertsons keeping tabs on their competitors, setting their prices to those stores they wanted to be most competitive with. And what the information here is telling us is that these four companies were aware of the price increases. And when they say everyone was, quote, behaving themselves, what I think they're saying is that no one lowered their price to gain
Mm-hmm.
more market share.
Market share.
Exactly. And so with everyone behaving, quote unquote, they could just continue to keep their prices high because no one's going to do anything about it. Everyone can just enjoy these high margins.
And just get fatter and fatter and fatter.
Exactly. And the reason I wanted to share this story is not only because it's funny to think of a frozen French fry cartel, as terrible as it is, it's also kind of humorous, but
Yeah.
even more so. Redner's is a grocery store. They are a grocery retailer, and grocery retailers have been getting slammed in the news recently, right? For price gouging their customers. And Redner says in this article in Supermarket News that we're sort of utilizing as the source here, that as part of their mission to exceed customer expectations by offering the freshest products and the lowest prices, Redner's Market is committed to challenging this behavior. Artificially inflated food prices affect families and communities everywhere, making it harder for consumers to access affordable groceries. This lawsuit is about accountability and ensuring a fair marketplace. By taking action against anti-competitive practices, Redner's reinforces its mission to uphold fair pricing and stand up as a champion for its customers by working tirelessly to ensure the affordability and quality they deserve.
Such a novel idea.
Mm-hmm. Such a
I
novel
love it.
idea. Yeah. Yeah. So we'll keep an eye on this lawsuit. We'll keep an eye on how this goes. We'll keep an eye on, if it goes to trial and what this all looks like. And, I think perhaps if you live in Delaware, Maryland, or Eastern Pennsylvania, go and support your local Redners.
Yeah, definitely go and support.